Hello and welcome to Legal Bites. If you're new here, my name is Alita. I'm a lawyer licensed in California and DC, and on this channel, we explain the law one bite at a time. We don't give legal advice, but we do talk about how the law works and try to look into our crystal ball to see how things might turn out. If you're enjoying this on YouTube, we'd love it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with friends, all the great YouTube-y stuff. And if you want to listen while out and about, we're now offering our live streams in podcast form where you can leave a rating and review. Links are in the description below, as well as to our clips channel where you can find some of the best clips taken from our live streams. Otherwise, if you want to catch me elsewhere, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so on Locos, Patreon, or by becoming a YouTube member, or by buying some really awesome Legal Bites merch. Again, all links are in the description below. And with that said, let's get into it.
All right, you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this lovely Wednesday. I hope you're having a wonderful time. Before we get into anything here, don't forget to change your chat to live chat so you can see everybody there. And also don't forget to like the video because that helps to distribute this into the YouTube multiverse, so to speak. Okay, we've got a special live stream today, right? Because this isn't normally scheduled for us, right? Random Wednesday live stream. Shout out to Debbie Faison Cook for flagging this for me. She let me know that today was the starting day for the Kaitlin Armstrong trial. That's what we're watching today. We are only going to be able to watch the opening statements so far. Opening statements, maybe closing arguments, and the verdict. That is all that the judge is allowing cameras in the courtroom for this case. Unfortunately, I wish we could watch all of it because this is such a fascinating case. I didn't plan this. I didn't plan to be wearing my Austin Marathon shirt today. It just kind of happened. I was having a bit of a lazier day after I pushed to publish a video yesterday. And so, I was like, well, you know what? This all took place in Austin, Texas. So why not? I'll have a little nod to Austin there. So we are coming out of the Travis County Courthouse, Travis County Criminal Courthouse specifically. So I feel like I'm like kind of going back home with this case a little bit, having spent 3 years living there in the ATX. So anyway, while they are, and I can actually show you guys what we've got in the courtroom right now. Let's see here. So this is what we got here. Opening statements here. This is through.
This is cause number D1DC22301.
I guess we might be getting started.
The state of Texas.
I don't know if you guys can hear it.
Kaitlin
I hope you can hear it okay.
Armstrong. The state ready to proceed?
Here we go.
Defense. All right. Let me ask the counsel approach the bench prior to us bringing the jurors in.
Yeah, Shireen, I could not have had better timing, right? Thank you for sending me the link, by the way. I appreciate that. Shout out to Shireen for sending it because I was looking for it. All right. I also don't want this bar to be showing the whole time. What's happening here? Come on. No. That's not what we want. There we go. Okay, so while we've got a sidebar here with this is, let me see here. I've got the judge's name here somewhere. Judge Kennedy. So she ruled. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the case, you'll understand this ruling. She ruled that the defendant's escape attempts can come in to trial. So I anticipate that we are going to hear quite a bit about her now multiple escape attempts. Let me rewind just a little bit. I give the context in the description of this video too, but for those of you that are less familiar with the case, so this is the quote unquote love triangle murder trial, right? We've got a love triangle. We've got the defendant, her boyfriend, and the boyfriend's kind of ex-girlfriend he had briefly seen. The kind of ex-girlfriend is the victim in this case. She is a professional, or rest in peace. She was a professional cyclist, as is the boyfriend. And the defendant, I think, was not a professional cyclist, maybe was into cycling though, but is or was a yoga instructor. So apparently the victim was in town in Austin for a big race. It's the gravel Locos bicycle race, which is 150 miles. She had just kind of made it into professional leagues, and she was in town, and the defendant became incredibly jealous because there was a gap in time between when she was with her boyfriend, and during that gap, he had seen the victim. Seen as in dated, I guess. And according to the prosecution, she went to the victim and brought a firearm and shot her. After the police investigated, or during the investigation, the police interrogated her, asked her about this strange peculiarity, how they reviewed some surveillance footage, and they found that the defendant's car was essentially at the scene of the crime at the time that the crime happened. They asked her about it. They didn't have enough evidence in order to arrest her at the time, so she decided, this is my opportunity. So she sold her car and then fled to Costa Rica. She flew from Austin to Houston to New York to Costa Rica, where not only did she just flee there to just be away from the police and the investigation, she also got plastic surgery to change the look of her face. She also dyed her hair. So there is a lot here in this case that is very relevant to her mental state and an alleged guilty conscience, essentially. So the
Good
judge
morning,
determined that all of
ladies
that
and
comes in,
gentlemen
and
of the
that's,
jury.
in my
You were
opinion, entirely
sworn
proper.
On Monday evening, so we have taken care of that part of our responsibilities as far as your oath. And I extend the greetings to you on behalf of all the parties. In cause
I like her
number
glasses.
D1DC 223011129, you're now being present. The state and defense haven't announced ready for trial. State, you may begin with the reading of the indictment in this cause.
Okay. Oh, it's too quiet. Come on, Elaine. Turn your mic on.
Kaitlin Armstrong, on or about the 11th day of May, 2022, and before the commitment of this indictment in the county of Travis and state of Texas,
This is in Texas,
did
yes.
there cause the death of Anna Moriah Wilson, an individual, by shooting the said Anna Moriah Wilson with a firearm. And it is further presented that Kaitlin Armstrong, on or about the 11th day of May, 2022, and before the commitment of this indictment in the county of Travis and state of Texas, did then and there with intent to cause serious bodily injury to Anna Moriah Wilson, an individual, commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that caused the death of Anna Moriah Wilson by shooting the said Anna Moriah Wilson with a firearm against the peace and dignity of the state, signed by the foreperson of the grand jury.
The defendant will please rise.
All right. There
To
she
the
is.
allegations as read by state in paragraph 1 of the indictment, how do you plead? To the allegations as read by the state to paragraph 2 of the indictment, how do you plead? You may be seated. Does the state have an opening statement to make at this time?
Of course they do.
You may proceed.
Jen, I'll answer this in a minute. Any questions I will save and we'll answer. Andy, they need to see you. There you go. Good girl.
cases by
Oh no.
Anna Moriah. Everybody calls her Mo Wilson. Mo was an accomplished college skier from Vermont. A few years ago, she got into a sport called gravel racing. In about 3 short years, she became one of the best in the world at it. On May 11, 2022, at 9:15 p.m. here in Austin, Texas, the last thing Mo did on this earth was scream in terror. You hear those screams. There's a surveillance camera with an audio portion to it. We'll play that for you. And you'll hear those screams. Those screams are followed by ah, ah, 2 gunshots. One to the front of the head,
Ooh.
one to the side of the head
Mm.
that hits the index finger as it passes.
Ooh. So she saw it coming.
You won't hear any more screams up there. 55 seconds. We intend to prove to you, you do this the next year. After 4 or 5 seconds silence, Kaitlin Armstrong stood over Mo Wilson and put a 3rd shot right in Mo Wilson's heart. 9:15 p.m. Good morning. My name is Rick Jones. I represent the state of Texas. Along with my co-counsel, Mr. Gonzalez, Stewart, Jenny Sullivan, Mr. Rob Drummond, who will join us at some point. We intend to present to you approximately 40 witnesses from this witness chair to give you evidence over the next 4 to 5 days. We're going to start by giving information about 3 key players. Number 1, we know this. 25-year-old college grad from Vermont, up-and-coming pro gravel racer. Second key player, Colin Strickland, who's a professional gravel racer who lives right here in Austin, Texas. The third player is Kaitlin Armstrong, the defendant, who lived with Colin. They had an on-again, off-again romantic relationship. And it was business partner. They had a business of real estate business, refurbishing trailers. Through these witnesses, we're going to give you background on Colin and Kaitlin's relationship. They met in October of 2019 and began a romantic relationship in October 2019. You heard from Colin that at some point in 2021, around the freeze, she moved in with Colin. Here, as a result of that business, they shared an iPad and a laptop. It was connected to Colin's phone. His iMessage on those documents, on those apparatus. And you will hear from Colin that the relationship was on again, off again, and you will hear that when the relationship was off, they both dated other people, but they continued to live together. And then we'll give you some more background on Colin. During one of the off-again periods in October of 2021, Colin began dating a romantic relationship with Mo Wilson. While he was taking to Colin's going to tell you that he had to confront communicating, calling her cell phone. And you'll even see cell phone data. Colin going back and forth with Kaitlin about calling numbers. And he sends her a text that says WTF with regard to her calling numbers. And you'll hear Colin tell you that he changed Mo Wilson's name to Christine Walls in his cell phone in an attempt to seek his communication with Mo Wilson. Because he'll tell you that after they dated, they remained friends. And you'll hear background on Kaitlin Armstrong as well. One of the things you'll hear is she was not happy with his relationship. Colin still communicated with Mo Wilson after their romantic relationship. You'll hear testimony from some of Kaitlin Armstrong. And you'll hear that not only did she share that iPad and laptop with Colin, but she had access to his text messages through iMessages on those documents. He'll tell you that he was a hands-on kind of guy in his business. And Kaitlin was the business manager type. So, in fact, you'll hear that she sent emails, messages out for the business from those two documents, from those two apparatus that had access to his email, pretending to be him for the business. That'll prove her access to those documents and access to his text messages through that iPad.
Sorry, I'm going to pause it real quick just to add a few comments here. Volume aside, that's more of a courtroom tech issue. I think he's doing a good job of this opening statement so far. I think that starting off very, very illustratively with how Wilson died from the very, very beginning, showing one gunshot here, one gunshot here, also with her hand. It's like you have this very visceral visual impact from the very beginning. And so no doubt the jury right now is paying a ton of attention. And also, yeah, Martin K, that's a good point. No notes. He's not operating with any kind of notes. He is going straight from memory and just talking to the jury. He's coming like right up to the jury bar right there or the jury box. And I mean, no doubt he is communicating directly with all of these jurors right now. I didn't mention this before. I didn't have a chance to because we got started pretty quickly, but the jury was impaneled in a single day on Monday. It's 8 women, 6 men. I think that the women are much more likely to be very judgmental of the defendant. I don't know how many, well, it's probably going to be 2 alternates. I don't know if they've already chosen the alternates or if those are going to be chosen after the trial ends, because it depends on the jurisdiction. And I don't know what Texas does for in terms of like choosing who's on the jury and then who's an alternate. But anyway, so very, very interesting division up between men and women, particularly in a love triangle kind of case where it's 2 women, 1 man. Already, I have the impression that the defendant is some crazy woman who was obsessive, and that the boyfriend was already very concerned. I don't know why he was getting back with her if she was that crazy, but hey, everybody makes mistakes in relationships, right? We all get into relationships that we probably shouldn't be in at some point, and then realize at some point what was good and what was bad. Usually those mistakes don't involve someone actually dying, however. So, very, very, very sad situation for the boyfriend as well. Sable Marquette, thank you so much. In Texas, the alternates are chosen before trial. Thank you so much. So anyway, so I wanted to give a few thoughts on that, and then we'll get caught up because at some point there will be a recess or there will be a sidebar. So we'll definitely get caught up at some point on this. So I might pause again at some point. I'm going to try to let it run. And I'm going to try to not talk over him, particularly because it's so quiet, especially for this one, since he doesn't have a mic on him. So, all right, we'll play it as we go.
That laptop. And you'll see text messages, you'll see cell phone evidence of that phone call that Kaitlin made to Mo Wilson in October 2021. And prior to May 11th, one of the things you'll find out about Kaitlin Armstrong, defendant, is that Colin at McBride's Guns on Lamar bought 2 guns. He bought himself a gun, and he bought Kaitlin a 9mm 6-hour P365. And you'll find that in January 2022, 4 months for this murder, Kaitlin Armstrong goes to the range, a gun range in South Austin, 35 and Slaughter. She buys 50 rounds of ammo. You'll see the receipt from the ammo. And you'll see pictures of her cell phone, of her practicing with that weapon. 6-hour P365 9mm. 4 months.
That part to me is not so crazy because we are talking about Texas. Texas has a lot of guns and a lot of gun ranges. So, the fact that she had gone to a gun range beforehand isn't necessarily a red flag to me, especially in a place like Texas. But maybe there's cell phone photos of her practicing and she's got a Wilson's face on the target or something. That would be crazy.
For Mo Wilson's kid. And then we'll give you some more background before the murder that around the May 2nd, 2022 time frame, Colin Strickland left Austin in late April, and he was gone for about 30 days. He was in California. There was a bike gravel race in San Diego area. Colin will testify that during that late April, early May 2nd deadline, that his communication with Mo began to ramp up. Otherwise, they started to communicate a little bit more than they had in the past. And during this time period, when Colin's out on the road in California, texting Mo more, you would learn from his witness chair that Kaitlin Armstrong is back home in Austin near that laptop and that iPad that has access to iMessages to his information. Now, some very important things happened on May 2nd. A couple of things. On May 2nd, and you'll learn some cell data information, cell phone records. Kaitlin Armstrong logged in to Colin Strickland's Gmail account and Instagram from her phone. So she had access to his information. And another important thing happened on May 2nd.
It's a lot of access to give a girlfriend.
Kaitlin Armstrong on her phone, you get the record. Look up Mo Wilson on her phone. And she looked up pictures of Mo Wilson on May 2nd. 9 days. And you'll learn that Colin leaves California and goes to Arizona, to Tucson, I believe. And then Kaitlin decides to fly to Arizona after looking up Mo on this. She gets to Arizona, and her and Colin drive back. They arrive back in Austin on May 9th. Colin and Kaitlin from Arizona, they drive back, make stops along the way, they arrive back on May 9th. And one of the things that Kaitlin Armstrong does on May 9th, 2 days before Mo Wilson is killed, she looks her up on an app called Strava. Strava app.
It's paused on the feed. It's not me. It's not my internet. Well, maybe it's my internet. Let me see here. Okay.
Now you learn from the Strava people that the Strava app has a safety feature. You can put the safety feature on. When you're leaving home, you can post your ride through the mountains. But put the safety feature on, starts a few blocks from your home. If you don't put the safety feature on, it gives a pretty close general location where you begin your ride and where you end your ride. And you'll learn from the testimony from the witness here that when Mo Wilson was in Austin, she did not activate her safety feature. She posted ride, you can see where it begins. Now on May 9th, she's looking up her on Strava. She was Googling her on the second. Now, Mo's not here yet, because on May 10th, the very next day, as she's looking up, Mo shows up in Austin for a gravel Locos race in Hyco, Texas. It's a 157-mile race. She was favored to win. She didn't stay in a hotel. She stayed with a friend, Kaitlin Cash. We call her Cash. Cash stayed in a garage apartment at 1708B Maple Drive. 1708, she stayed in B garage behind the house. It's in East Austin, off MLK.
Computer is louder than him.
That's where she stayed. She arrived on the 10th. Now, we'll give you some background about what Kaitlin was doing on the 10th. Now, she looked up on the 9th, and on the 10th, May 10th, the day that Mo Wilson arrived in Austin, you'll hear testimony that Kaitlin Armstrong looked up Mo on Strava 4 different times. This is the day before Mo was killed. 4 times. Strava pretty much tells where you are. And we're going to go to May 11th. The day Mo Wilson was murdered. Now, during that day, Colin and Mo began to text each other. And you'll see those text messages. We're trying to hook up together. Go back and forth about what time, where we're going to go, things like that. You'll see those text messages. And Colin will tell you that later on that day, 3 o'clock range, he leaves on his motorcycle to go to the dentist. And while he's out at the dentist visit, him and Mo finalize their plans to hook up for the evening and go to a debate. And he will testify that texting was on his iPhone. Connected through our messages to the iPad and laptop back at home using cell data records to show that Kaitlin Armstrong was back at home. Now, we We're gonna tell you what Mo Wilson was doing the last day of her life. Before she went swimming, one of the last things she did on this earth was what she loved to do. She went on a 3-mile bike ride from 123, and she arrived back at 423. We know that because she posted it on Strava, and we know that because she'll also be presenting evidence that her cell phone data, which has locations, follows her and shows where she starts and where she goes, her whole route, and when she gets back to. You'll get that evidence.
So that you guys are familiar, sorry, I'm trying to not come in too hot because I know I have my volume cranked up like all the way so I can hear him. He keeps referring to an app called Strava. If you're not familiar, a lot of runners will use this, a lot of cyclists will use this, and it basically is a way to track your runs or your mileage essentially, and it can draw up an actual map. And some people have done funny things with this, like like drawing out certain like inappropriate things with their runs. I mean, it's, one way to stay motivated, I guess. Excuse me. So anyway, but there's it's a social media app, so you actually can keep in touch with other people that are also training, et cetera, et cetera. Well, apparently Armstrong had access to Mo's Strava account. And so not access to the actual account, but she was able to see her activity on the app. And so she was able to see where she was cycling around and all of this kind of stuff. So she was tracking down Mo Wilson before all of this happened. There's that. She also got access to her boyfriend's Gmail account, which I don't know if she had surreptitiously gotten that access or if he had previously given that access to her. And so she was able to find like photos of Mo, and she like looked up stuff about Mo, and at this time, so May 9th is when Mo came to Austin. On the 10th, or sorry, the 10th is when she arrived in Austin. Then she and Colin Strickland, the boyfriend, they were texting to get together for dinner because they were friends after they had previously dated. Anyhow, so all the while, Armstrong is essentially stalking Mo in a crazy way. That's the feeling that I have from this opening statement. Defense might have a completely different perspective on this. They might say, like, she also watched a bunch of other people. This is something that she would do. And she also, put of her own activity on there. And she happened to see other people's, and she knew that other people could see hers. You know what I mean? So I'm very curious to hear what the defense is going to say after this. But so far, my impression is the framework that the prosecution is laying here is that the defendant was, she was essentially stalking her. She was through all these different means, through her boyfriend's, cell phone access or accounts or what have you, and then also through the app, and then, and then she went to the gun range to practice firing her weapon, which on its own, I will say, is, like I said earlier, on its own, going to a gun range is completely normal in Texas. However, as Viridian Lawnard said, could be unusual for her specifically, though, if she had never been to a gun range before, if she had just recently purchased that firearm. I don't know. How long did she have that before? Did she have a history of using it and going to a gun range? That would be kind of important to see how different that was. But even aside from that, I think there's enough here that gives me the heebie-jeebies about, what the defendant did before the death of Mo Wilson. And let me get a few questions here just before we continue on. And some comments here. Mountain Princess 207, member for 11 months. Wednesday surprise, yay, wonderful. Glad to have you here. Shireen gifted 1 Legal Bites membership. Shireen, thank you so much for doing that. I did not catch who was the lucky person that got a free membership, but whoever you are, welcome to Bite Club. And I hope to see you on Friday for our members only casual members only live stream where we just kind of hang out and talk about all kinds of stuff. And also from Shireen, member for 13 months. Woohoo, anniversary time. Wonderful. Thank you so much for being a member for over a year now. I love it. Okay, some questions now. J for Jen. Why did the judge rule there would be limited coverage? Can you repeat which parts will be live streamed? I don't know exactly why the judge determined that not everything would be. Maybe because she just determined that it was like too sensitive or something. I don't know. Or maybe there's some kind of information that would come out that is going to be particularly, I don't know, sensitive. I'm not sure. Personally, I much prefer all of the trial to be open to the public. Of course, why not? I have my own interest, but also because, I've talked about this before. We like being able to see what's going on in trial, and we like being able to, make sure that our judicial system is functioning properly. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. And the parts that will be live streamed are, of course, the opening statements today, and then the trial. I guess it's supposed to be about 4 to 5 days. Then the next opportunity for live streaming is the closing arguments and then verdict watch. So based on the evidence that I have heard in this case and the escape attempts that she's tried to make and the lengths to which she's gone for those escape attempts, I think I think that the prosecution has a pretty solid case here. But like I said, let's hear what the defense has to say in their opening statements. And I'm still going to be interested to track what comes out in evidence. We won't be able to see it on video, but I will be trying to follow it. And maybe let me know if you guys want me to continue covering this over the next, 4 to 5 days for, to find out what comes out at trial in evidence. Flash Fan 85, what would happen if they said no opening statement? It happens. It happens. Usually, I mean, it would be like a Daryl Brooks kind of situation where someone's representing themselves and they like decide that they want to just kind of throw the case a little bit. I don't know. Weird things like that can happen from time to time, but it's relatively rare. Freya, picture this. Has jury selection already happened? Yes, it happened on Monday. There are 8 women and 6 men on the jury. MZ, crime of passion at play in this case or premeditated. Anyway, listening in. From what the prosecution has said so far in this opening statement, it sounds like they're going for premeditated for sure. Okay. Let's continue on. And I apologize again for the audio levels. I really wish that they had just put a lav mic on him. I don't know, or something. All right, but let's continue on.
At 4:49 p.m. Maybe that. You'll get this witness chair at 4:49 p.m. No, send that text copy. Kaitlin Armstrong is back home. Now, we're going to talk about Kaitlin Armstrong around the time of the text was sent. At 4:49 p.m.,
Thanks, Manny, for banning.
a text message was sent with the exact location of where Mo Wilson would be on May 11, 2022. The exact location was text her that 730 Naples Drive. Kaitlin. Back home. And at 4:54 p.m., 5 minutes. With your testimony at 5 minutes after that text went to college, Kaitlin Armstrong looks up Mo Wilson on the shot. Looks at that ride from 1 23 to 423. You see that. See Kaitlin Armstrong. So, that was the access information. Then we're going to move you along in the evening of May 11th. At 5:43 p.m., Colin picks up Mo at Kaitlin Cash's apartment. They go to Deep Eddy Pool, and there's a restaurant called Pool Burger across the street. Now, you'll see a couple of things that put them there. You'll see Colin and Mo's cell phone traveling Cash's house to Pool Burger in Deep Eddy. And you'll see video of them sitting in the restaurant eating around the 8 o'clock area. And you'll even see a video of them leaving on a motorcycle to left 8 o'clock on May 11th from the Pool Burger area. Now, Colin drops Mo off at 8:35 p.m. You'll hear Weeks talk about his cell phone. Gets him right there in that alley. It's an alley behind the main house. I was reading that. 8:35, he drops her off. Then Colin goes home. And he's home at 9:15, and those gunshots go off. And we know he's home because you'll be witnesses track him on his cell phone. He does stop at 8:38 on MLK, a few blocks from dropping Mo off. And he texts Kaitlin about the area he was running. Finished. Want to get something to eat? She doesn't respond. A few later, learn that she doesn't respond. He goes home. He receives a phone call about 9 o'clock. You'll hear from the person who called him. They was on the phone for 8 minutes. You see cell phone records proving it. And then at 9:21, Colin sends Kaitlin one last text message. Yeah, some heat, going home. And cell phone location puts Colin at his home miles away from 1708 Maple Drive. That's how we.
That's important. That's an important detail. And by the way, Shireen, thank you so much for anyone that's having a really hard time listening and is missing information. Shireen is putting in the chat some of the highlight details in there. So be paying attention to that if you are getting a little lost on some of these details. But this point right here that he just made was very important. And I had a question about that because this is a love triangle murder case, right? There are 3 people involved. What was Colin's involvement in the death of Mo Wilson, or did he have any involvement in her death? And here, this is an important point for the prosecution to say, nope, this was all defendant. He had nothing to do with it because he had been calling her, he had been texting her to no avail. And his final text at 9:21 p.m., which was around the time that that Mo died or was shot, was killed, was murdered, was the time that he sent that text. It placed him, because our cell phone data can incriminate or liberate us, or exonerate, I should say. It placed him far away from the scene of the crime at the time. So that's a very important key point to kind of put that to rest at the very beginning, so that the jury doesn't start going down some unnecessary rabbit hole by focusing in on that kind of a detail. He's flagging that very early on to say, none of us suspect him. He's not someone that you need to worry about because he's a good guy here.
I would know what he did. Now let's talk about Mo Wilson on May 11th. Mo comes home. Remember, Colin dropped her off at 8:35. Little small flight of stairs up Cass's garage apartment. At 8:36, Mo unlocked the door to Cass's apartment. And we know that because Cass has an app on her phone that sends her a message
Ooh.
when the door is locked and unlocked. Not open and closed, just locked and unlocked. Cass was at dinner. She left her apartment before Mo went to dinner with friends as well. You hear that from Cass. So, she unlocks the door at 8:36. She goes in her apartment. You were here when cell data experts and cell phone records that from 8:37 p.m., almost a minute after the door opens, she's on her phone. They're able to track her phone, look at her phone. She's on her phone, calling at 8:37, 1 minute later, on her phone. And she stays on her phone until 9:13. Consequently, you will also learn that within 4 or 5 feet of those stairs, there's a fence and a driveway. You will learn that at 8:37 p.m., 1 minute after she opened that door, Kaitlin Armstrong's Jeep was seen going through that alley. 1
Ooh.
minute. She opened that door 1 minute later, you see that Jeep going through the alley. You'll see that on video.
Jesus. What? Oh my God. Okay. I want to hear what the defense is going to say, but oh my God. 8:36, the ring app, shows that Mo unlocked the door, walked through the door. Then 1 minute later, Kaitlin Armstrong's Jeep rolls by and you've got that on video surveillance. Like what purpose does she have being there at that hour, especially when her boyfriend is texting her talking about like, let's get dinner together? She's toast. I feel like she's already toast. Maybe I'll be surprised. It happens.
8:36, 8:37, 8:38, not in a few blocks away. You hear all that from witnesses. Now, Mo sends her last message out at 9:13 p.m. She sent a text message to a podcast. 2 minutes before that time. The last message to a podcast. Now, you hear from Kaitlin Cash. She had gone to dinner. Good friend of mine, Mo was hanging. She arrives home and sees Mo on the floor. Just sees her legs. She'll testify. She thought Mo had been on a strenuous ride and was laying on the floor, stretching, relaxing. And she'll testify that she gets closer and sees blood and freaks out. And at 9:54 p.m., within seconds of being in her apartment, she calls 911. And she'll tell you
Stay there.
that she put the phone on speaker, and the 911 operator had her doing chest compressions to her friend. She will tell you she had no idea she was there, whether she was there or not. You hear testimony. Press the closest friend's chest about 80 times for 8 to 10 minutes until the first responders showed up and took over. The police talked to her that night. She tells them that she left before. She tells them who Mo is. They don't know who she is. She's a friend of mine. She's from San Francisco. She's here visiting. I don't know. She was supposed to have been with a friend named Colin Strickland. And she even shows him a text message where Mo texted her, hey, what are you doing? Beginning of the case. Now, the police continue to investigate. They canvassed the area for surveillance, videos, and they locate a black Jeep with a very distinct bicycle rack with 3 racks on it at 8:37 p.m. in an alley about 5 feet from Cash's stairs. It's a little fence that separates them. 8:37. It's the Jeep I was just telling you about. Passing that alley. 1 minute I should open that door. We're gonna present evidence to you. That's Kaitlin Armstrong. Police bring in Colin Strickland the next day on May 3rd. And the investigation is done. It's on the way. Police interviewed Colin, confirms his story. He tells them all the things you're going to hear about. I picked her up. I was on a motorcycle. Deep Eddie, Food Burger, they canvass and get video to prove that stuff eventually. Now, the police also sent somebody to Colin's house to investigate. To sit on the house and watch that house while they were interviewing Colin. Once the detective learned about the black Jeep in the alley, he asked Colin about the black Jeep. Colin would testify, but he told him that's her Jeep. She owned it, she drives it. I'm not saying I've never driven it, okay, but I wasn't driving it that day. I was on my motorcycle. So now, Kaitlin Armstrong becomes the person as well. Because they're concerned about why that Jeep was at 1708 at 8:37 p.m. Now, the police go to get Kaitlin Armstrong. They look her up. They find that she got some Class B warrant.
Oh, wait, I have this.
They pick her up and they bring her in.
Here, I just
And
boosted
you'll
the volume.
see-
This should be better. Sorry, guys.
Well, you heard from Detective Connor, who has her in the room talking to her. And apparently, Detective Connor would tell her, yeah, that's some kind of mistake with this woman. The birthday is mixed up or something. Not sure it's you. We're going to release you. You can go. You're free to go.
Hopefully, volume's better. Okay, good. Sorry it took me so long.
At the same time, the police have got a search warrant for the search of the house. Now, you'll see that when Kaitlin is in that room with Detective Connor, she says, I want to leave. She doesn't get to leave. You'll see it. Continues to stay there. Detective Connor continues to tell her more about it and ask her questions. I just want to hear your side of the story.
We're going to get to her running away.
That Sandy's murder. Doesn't say anything. Let's say something like, I didn't know how to do that. Same girls she's been searching from May 7th, May 9th, May 10th. And eventually, they do release her from the police station that day. Here's no explanation why the Jeep was there. Now, from that search warrant at Colin and Kaitlin's home, they find two things that are very important to this case. Two guns. One, Smith, Colin's gun. They find a 9mm 6-hour P365 that belonged to Kaitlin Armstrong. That gun is later identified through ballistics as a firearm that was used to kill Mo Wilson. Now, the day after this interview, May 13th, some important things happen.
Here it goes.
You'll see Kaitlin Armstrong on a video camera at CarMax in South Austin, near their home. She goes to CarMax and she sells her Jeep for $12,000. You'll see a video of her in CarMax. On that same day, you'll see an Uber receipt. She rides an Uber to Austin Bergstrom Airport after she sold her car.
Austin Bergstrom, that's the airport in Austin.
And you'll also be presented evidence. The next day, she rode to Uber's airport on the 13th, but the next day on May 14th, she flies from Austin to Houston and from Houston to New York City. You see the flight receipts. And you'll learn that on May 18th, a few days later, and you'll also learn that she has a sister, Christine Armstrong, that lived in New York, New Jersey. On May 18th, you'll be presented testimony of her going online, using her credit card, her email, buying a plane ticket to Costa Rica with her sister's name listed as the passenger on May 18th. And on that same day, she flies to Costa Rica using her sister Christine Armstrong passport. She goes to Costa Rica and assumes a different identity. And on June 22nd, while in Costa Rica, she has plastic surgery. You'll see the medical record from Dr. Padilla.
What did she get done?
She spends $6,425 to change her appearance. You'll also see before and after photos in those medical records.
Yeah.
That's on June 22nd.
I want to know exactly what she had done, though.
A few days later, on June 29th, the U.S. Marshals locate Kaitlin Armstrong in Costa Rica. Have no jurisdiction, notify the local authorities. Get together, they work it out. And a few days after June 29th, Kaitlin Armstrong is returned to the United States.
Welcome home.
Now, I want to backtrack a little bit, tell you about the cell phone data. Cell phone data can include calls, text messages, and also location information. You tell who you call, who you text, and where you are.
before he gets further into this, yeah, YouTube sucks now. 6K in Costa Rica. That's so much higher than expected. I mean, depending on what she had done, though, it may be very reasonable because maybe she had a ton of different things done. You know, I don't know. That's why I'm like, I really want to know what exactly she had done. That's very curious to me. Okay, now let's continue on because I want to hear about all the cell phone data placing her in all these different locations. I mean, so far they have receipts for everything. They've got the Uber for her to go to Austin Bergstrom Airport. They've got all of the records of her flying, of course. I mean, of course, like those of course. But like they've got the data of, you know, her getting into her boyfriend's email and you know, looking up all this information, going onto Strava and looking all of that up. I mean, this is so thorough. They are just burying her in receipts right now. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I definitely want to see the closing arguments then when they're actually using the evidence that's come out at trial. Okay.
Let's talk about Colin's cell phone data. You can see those text messages I told you about between the two. You see him traveling on a cell phone location to pick her up. You'll see him traveling to Uber. Okay? You'll see him traveling from Uber. You'll see him leaving the scene at 8:35, dropping her off, and you'll see him stop and make that text message at 8:38 through the cell phone records. You'll see that 9 o'clock phone call, that's 8 minutes, and you'll see that 9:21 text, and you'll be able to see from the cell phone expert that he's way at home at 9:15 when those shots ring out. You'll be able to tell it from the cell data. So we look at Mo Wilson's cell data. You'll be able to see that ride she took, the last ride of her life. At 1:23, 4:23 p.m. on May 11th. Hopefully, you see it. C and E for text message. 4:49 p.m. on May 11th. See the 17 on that. Cell data. And you'll see her location to help you verify what time she got home. You got Cash's information saying it goes over 8:36. You'll be able to look at the cell data to see if it also says she got home at 8:36. You'll be able to see that to verify. You also see that from 8:37 to 9:13, she was on her phone in an apartment. And you'll even see evidence afterwards that that's the front door, here's a couch. After she's murdered, you'll see that cell phone on that couch plugged into a white charger right there, right by the door. You hear this very small apartment. She was a few feet away to the bathroom. But at 9:13, that cell phone is right there when she sent that last message, right by that front door. And you'll see that last text that she sent to the podcast. 2 minutes before she killed. You'll see Kaitlin Armstrong cell data. These cell phone people tell you they can get your stuff from your cell phone, unlike your cell phone, through the cloud, all kind of ways. You will see her cell phone and a GPS that I'm going to tell you about is in her Jeep. You'll see them traveling earlier that day, side by side, so you can verify the accuracy of it. And you'll also see from the cell phone people that at 7:30 p.m., 7:30 p.m. on May 11th, turn the cell phone on.
Yeah, about the sound. So that mic, I don't know if, yeah, you can see this mic right here. This is what's picking up his sound. And every time he turns away or walks away from it, he's got his back to it. That's when he gets really quiet for us. So the jury can probably hear him very well because they're sitting like right there. Um, but for us, every time he turns away, um, sorry guys, I'm doing the best we can. I boosted it as much as I could. So it's better now, but I know that it's still not perfect.
Turn it up. By the way, June 29th, U.S. Marshals together, Costa Rica.
So she wiped her cell phone
What cell phone evidence?
on June 29th.
And also, you'll see that at 9:55, approximately 35 minutes or so, after you hear that scream on that audio in the ring camera, her cell phone is turned back on. And it's at her house in South Austin. You'll see location that cell phone. And you'll learn that on May 27th, while in Costa Rica, she searched her name from her cell phone, news articles, things about her arrest, things about her being a fugitive. You'll see that through the cell phone data, people. She's looking at all this and reading this stuff, putting it up on her phone while she's in Costa Rica on May 27th. After the murder, but before the plastic surgery, you see her Googling this warrants for her arrest and stuff. Now, I told you the police was canvassing the video surveillance. You'll see one video surveillance camera of Colin leaving that motorcycle at 8:36 once he dropped Mo off at Cass's apartment. Got him one time on the video camera. Now, there's 4 video surveillance cameras that captures Kaitlin Armstrong circling Cass's house at 17:08 May for about an hour before the murder. It's circling. One camera catches it 3 or 4 times. It's passing up down the street on that black Jeep that she sold at CarMax. Now, one of them videos that catches her in the front of the house, in the back of the house, they have cameras on both sides, front and back of the house. That's the camera that catches her along that fence at 8:36. 1 minute. Oh. Now, you will find that many cars, and this Jeep here had an infotainment center. And within that infotainment center, there's GPS.
Oh,
You hear that Kaitlin Armstrong Jeep had an infotainment center
oh boy.
with a GPS.
Okay.
GPS shows.
Okay, hang on. So not only is her cell phone tracking her, but also her car's like like entertainment system also has GPS in it, or infotainment. Yeah, Kara, maybe I heard that too. He said infotainment. Basically the console of the car is high. I mean, most modern cars, maybe all modern cars these days that are made are essentially computers on wheels. So, but it also has GPS that also was tracking her. So they were able to take the car and look at that. Look at the data from the car to show where the car was at particular times. Jesus, I mean, this is, at this point, it feels insurmountable at this point. Like, did they offer a plea deal? You know, was it like basically not much of a deal for her? And so she's like, whatever, I'll just try my best to try to Or is she just nuts? And she was like, I'm not going to take any deal. I want to be freed because I'm going to try to bust out anyway. Like she did a few weeks ago. Crazy.
Time and location data. You'll see an animation of her driving down Lamar with the dots. Starting about 6 p.m. It's tracking her all over the city, North Austin. Driving around. You'll see her circling the block around the house. You'll see the experts look at the video ring time, GPS on the Jeep time to verify the accuracy. For example, the GPS says she's on this street, the ring time takes a picture. You see that side by side. Now, GPS has what they call trip logs. Everybody has trip logs. Trip log cuts off and keeps it on. Cars on. You hear about trip log 99, trip log 100. Trip log 99 stops at 8:40 p.m. GPS location puts Kaitlin Armstrong
At the scene of the crime?
in an alley, like 15, 20 yards from those stairs
Of course it does.
that Mo Wilson went up at 8:36. GPS guy will testify that at 9:17 p.m., 2 minutes after those fatal shots, trip log 100 starts. That Jeep starts up and starts to move. 2 minutes later, it's 20 yards from stairs to the Jeep. It sparked up at 8:40, no activity, turned off. 2 minutes up the road, that Jeep is back home and it's gone. And one of the things about this Jeep is we follow this Jeep on GPS all the way to the home in South Austin. You see that it stops by an apartment complex into a dumpster on the way home. Stops by the dumpster for a minute. GPS shows that the car is moving when it stops. Miles per hour, how fast it's going, it's not moving at all. You can see her go up to that dumpster, by the apartment complex, stop for a few minutes, and you're going to see her drive off home, cut that Jeep off, and trip log 100 is going to end. Right around 9:55 p.m., same time, that phone popped back on at her home. Now, you're going to hear from a ballistics and true mark expert. There were 3 shell casings and 3 projectiles covered at the scene. One of the projectiles was too mangled to compare. So he had 3 shell casings, 2 projectiles he used for comparison. So they got those 2 guns that they got from the search warrant. Colin's gun and Kaitlin's 6-hour P365 9mm. They test fired those guns and compared those test fires casings to those 5 found at the scene. From that chair, the ballistics guy is going to tell you Colin's gun was excluded. Kaitlin's gun were identified. The result will show that those casings, test casings, were identified as being the same as fired from that gun. That's what he's going to testify. That 6-hour P365 9mm the same gun, fired those cases. The same noise made the drive. And you're also going to hear from DNA experts. Now, you hear that they swabbed DNA from Mo Wilson's bike, which they found in some weeds, maybe 10 yards from the bottom of those stairs, cut 4 or 5 yards from where that car was parked at 840, and some bamboo weeds. They found her bike. You will find that the bike weighs about 5 or 6 pounds. You can pick it up like with one hand. You'll find that it's a very expensive bike, thousands of dollars. And you remember that earlier she was riding. Now, the DNA expert will tell you that she took DNA from Mo Wilson, Kaitlin Armstrong, and Colin Strickland to compare to the DNA on that bike. Now, they found DNA on the handlebars. Now, the DNA expert will tell you that they don't say that's the person. They got likelihood ratio. Uninformative, 5 categories. Uninformative with the lowest, strong, and very strong likelihood. That's how they give it down. You will find, or she'll testify, that the DNA on the handlebars was a very strong likelihood that the DNA on the handlebars included DNA from Kaitlin Armstrong. Strong.
I mean, what's the likelihood that she just happened across Mo Wilson's bike and just was like, oh, like I happen to be hanging out with you by your bike. No. This is I mean, this is just overwhelming. The fact that her DNA has a very strong likelihood of being a match on the bike's handlebars. Oh my God. Everything. They I mean, this is like it seems like at this point they have everything except for an actual confession by her. Like that's basically like how strong this case is against her. Okay, all right, let's continue.
And the DNA expert will testify that with regards to the DNA on the seat
What are they gonna say?
of the bike, that there's a very strong likelihood that the DNA on the seat of the bike included DNA from Kaitlin Armstrong. Very strong, highest category to have. And on October 11th, 2023, 19 days before this trial began, you're going to hear testimony that Kaitlin Armstrong escaped from the Travis County Jail.
Yep.
And was apprehended about a mile down the road. 19 days before this trial. When we present this evidence to you through these 40 witnesses here, we're going to ask you to find Kaitlin Armstrong guilty of murdering Mo Wilson. Thank you so much for your time.
I just like this is okay. I think defense is about to come up, but like I want to give my thoughts on that. And the jury's going to see video of this, by the way. So they're going to see video of her trying to escape on October 11th. If you've been following this at all, you probably saw it. And apparently, so the police said that they believe it was premeditated because she, like a few months before, started like really working out really, really, really hard. And then she got an injury that was the type of injury that couldn't be treated by doctors in the jail. So she had to go out to outside medical personnel in order to be seen. And it was also the type of injury that would not allow her to be properly examined with foot restraints. So on the way out after the appointment was over, she bolts out the door, runs. I mean, there's like I said, there's video footage of it. And then she somehow manages to get the handcuffs off. She also takes her pants off and is wearing leggings underneath. Like, I mean, October can be kind of cold, but it's not that cold in Austin. It's not so cold that you need to be wearing multiple layers like that, especially if you're just going to a doctor's appointment. Like there's plenty there to show that probably was planned out and she really thought that she was going to get away. I don't understand how someone thinks that they're going to successfully escape jail and then stay out forever. Like even the fleeing to Costa Rica, but at least she was able to like get out of the United States jurisdiction. You would also think that she would have done a little bit of research too to figure out like what country she could go to that wouldn't extradite her. But like she's like the wet bandits. She's terrible. She's a terrible criminal. Oh my gosh. I really wish that this entire thing was streamed from gavel to gavel. I would have wanted to see all of this. But we probably won't need to. Okay. Anyway, let's continue on because I have to know what the defense is going to go with. Like what is the defense going to be able to go up with and to try to reframe all of this? This is like they obviously have so many receipts here for the prosecution and like disorganized crime. That's so funny. Psychological projectionist. I mean, yeah, exactly. Disorganized crime. But like, I just, they have so many receipts that they have pulled out to just how can there possibly be any amount of space for any amount of doubt, let alone reasonable doubt? Okay. All right. I'm getting all of that out. We'll recenter. We will listen to the defense with an open mind. Okay.
So why are we here?
Yeah, why are we here?
Why are we here? Have you heard the state get up and tell you this is an open and shut case, right? There's DNA, ballistics, GPS evidence. The state's certainly convinced. That's all very important. So why are we here? You may already have your mind made up. I know Detective Richard Spittler with the Austin Police Department certainly did, just hours into his investigation. So why are we here?
They're going to attack the investigation.
We are here because the state's opinion of what the evidence is, and the Austin Police Department's opinion of what the evidence isn't important. You are the most important people in this room. It is your opinion of the evidence that we are here for. That's why we're here. Reasonable doubt. I want to talk to you about reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is doubt that is supported
Just
by...
look, Jeff, he's made an argument about the way the evidence.
Oh.
He's not getting a roll back.
Provide an opening statement with the evidence will show. There are no statements today.
I plan to, Your Honor.
Ooh.
Reasonable doubt is doubt that is supported.
Okay. It's a little bit of a spicy start. So when I've talked about this before. When it comes to opening statements, it's a risk to object to someone else's opening statement. So if you're going to object, you generally want to win, because if you don't, then the jury might think that you're being ticky-tacky, that you're fighting on the wrong ground level, right? But here the prosecution objected because he said he objected to the nature of what the defense attorney was saying. opening statement. Remember, I've talked about this many times before. It's not opening arguments, it's opening statements, because you argue at the very end after all of the jury has come in, or not jury, all of the evidence has come in, and you're able to argue with the evidence. At the very beginning, when we're talking about opening statements, the reason why it's an opening statement and not an opening argument is because the jury hasn't seen any of the evidence yet. There are some courthouses or some jurisdictions where a lot of times they will have decided in advance, what will be allowed in, what won't be allowed in. There are a lot of things that are decided ahead of time to sort of streamline the trial. But for all intents and purposes, the jury doesn't know any of that. The jury's completely fresh on it. So the opening statement is supposed to be a statement of the case to say this, to give a roadmap of what the case is going to be about, what kind of evidence they will see, so that's why anytime you make a statement on any sort of factual statement of what happened in this case, generally speaking, the safest way to say it is to say the evidence will show. The evidence will show that, on this date at this time, Kaitlin Armstrong's Jeep was 15 to 20 yards away from the bottom of the stairs of the apartment that Mo Wilson was found in. By saying that the evidence will show. In other words, it's saying you're going to see this, you're going to see that, you're going to see this, you're going to see that. And essentially what you're doing by framing it that way is you are building up expectations for the jury. So, that can be very powerful for them if you're priming them to see things through a particular narrative, through a particular framework, through a particular case, case standpoint. And you run into issues as the attorney if you make all these expectations and then the evidence doesn't rise to those expectations. That can be extremely detrimental, way more detrimental than if you had been a little bit more realistic in your opening statement. Now, okay, so back to the objection here that just happened. The prosecution stood up and objected and said, he's not just providing a roadmap here, he's giving arguments. He's trying to have a closing argument before the case starts. That's not allowed. And so the judge kind of looked at him and said, leave it to, make sure that you're saying what the evidence is going to show. And then his response to the judge was, I intend to do so, Your Honor. Which on its own, saying that you intend to do so is fine. His tone, in my opinion, though, was a little I would not have that kind of tone with a judge. Personally, I would not. Maybe it exudes confidence for some. Maybe he thinks it exudes confidence. But if I'm the jury and I just heard a really good opening statement by the prosecution, and this guy's kind of coming in and, talking about reasonable doubt and this is not about what the investigators decided like right away when they were investigating this case. The way that he was coming in was a little hot, which is fine. It's fine. He's entitled to put on a case that he thinks is the most strategic for his client. But if I'm on the jury, I don't like this guy already. Personally. I don't know. But let's see. I mean, keep in mind, this could be an attorney who has some character flaws, or maybe not. Maybe this is just someone who is making the most out of a really crappy case with really crappy facts. Every attorney goes through that at some point, where you have to do your best. You have to put your best arguments forward and just try to do whatever you can to get the best result for your client. Hopefully he has had a conversation with his client, hopefully many conversations at this point with his client about what their expectations should be, because that's another big aspect of lawyering too, is setting realistic expectations for your client for what they can hope to achieve through your representation. Whew. Okay. All right. Let's get back to it. That was a very spicy start. Very spicy start. Let's see how he continues to argue this. Let's see.
By reason and common sense. And I expect at the end of this trial that we will be talking about doubt, what that is, the purposes of my remarks to you this morning, I want to talk to you about reason and common sense.
Sure.
Now, reason,
Judge, once again,
Oh,
that's not a roadmap for evidence. That's argument.
oh, 2 objections now.
Judge, can we approach?
Okay, so that was another objection right on the heels of the first one on about him arguing. Yikes, 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 yikes. I mean, generally speaking, you can do a little bit of like, you know, priming the jury for like, you know, I want you as the evidence comes in, as the evidence gets presented, I want you to remember common sense. I want you to remember blah 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 blah.
Now, the state just discussed with you what you will see, what you will hear about, what you will hear throughout the course of this trial. But I want to talk to you about what you didn't hear about.
Yeah.
What you didn't hear about.
Tell us.
You didn't hear that not one witness saw Kaitlin Armstrong allegedly commit this murder.
Okay.
Not one,
Ugh.
because there isn't one. You didn't hear.
Because I'm not objecting again. He's supposed to be presenting the evidence that he's going to show, not evidence that he's not going to show. Once again, this is argument.
If the information from the argument is that the evidence that you states one thing, and he's pointing out what that evidence does not show, that would be permissible.
That's permissible,
Limited
right?
to that and not argument as to the facts of the case or why it was not. The verdict in this instance.
So I don't like that he has his back to the judge right now while she's talking. I mean, he's looking at the jury. That's, you know, that he's in between the judge and the jury right now. So he's looking at the jury, but I don't like the fact that he has his back to the judge while she's talking. Even though she's not addressing him, she's addressing the prosecutor. I don't like it. I don't like it. But the judge was coming down on his side on this one. She's, you know, the prosecution is arguing. He's arguing again. He can't be talking about what the, you know, what the evidence isn't going to show. But she says, no, just as much as you are allowed and encouraged to say what the evidence will show at the trial, you are also allowed and encouraged to say what the evidence will not show at the trial. Because if you think about it, what I said earlier about saying the evidence will show in your opening statement, it's setting expectations for the jury for what kind of evidence they are going to be hearing throughout the trial. If you are saying you will not be hearing anything about XYZ, that is also doing fulfilling a similar function, right? It's setting the expectations for the jury for what they will and will not hear. In other words, you know, what kind of evidence is out there or is not out there to support one side or the other. So, you know, I agree with the judge on this one. I'm glad she ruled the way that she did. But yeah, this is a very theatrical attorney right here. I will say that. Yeah, Shireen, his face. Wow. Yeah. This is someone who has done many jury trials before. You can tell because he's just calm, he's chill, he's confident, he's got all the body language and the facial expressions and all the things. Man, I really wish this whole thing was publicized.
Thank you, Your Honor. You won't hear, and you didn't hear, about any camera footage showing Kaitlin Armstrong at the scene of this shooting, despite there being tons of cameras in the area. And you heard opening statements about all the cameras that were in the immediate vicinity.
Also
of the scene of
true.
that shooting. Not one captures Kaitlin Armstrong at that scene, because there isn't. you did not hear about any direct evidence showing Kaitlin Armstrong is responsible for this crime, because there isn't any. Now, you will hear at the time Kaitlin left Austin to go to New York and then to Costa Rica, she would have no reason to know about anyone that was present in this case. That the Austin Police Department told her she was free to go. She was free to go. That's what you will hear. You will hear that Kate is passionate about traveling. She's passionate about yoga. And you're going to hear that she was totally comfortable traveling to far-off locations that intrigued her at the drop of a hat, on a moment's notice. That's what you'll hear. And you'll hear in the days following the shooting, weird things were happening to Kate at her home, documented things, things that would cause a reasonable person to fear for their safety, and that ultimately led to her decision to leave Austin. And you're going to hear people among us who are weak to begin with, who are troubled to begin with, who are damaged to begin with, are more likely to fall into that kind of state of reaction, an attempt to retreat. So let's.
Is she also passionate about plastic surgery? I mean, he's doing a good job here. He's doing a good job of like, what can you possibly, say here? She's a yoga instructor. She's passionate about yoga. She's passionate about travel. Yoga in Costa Rica sounds absolutely delightful. Weird things were happening at her home after the shooting happened, so she wanted to get away. How do you explain her sister's passport? Like, did she just mix them up? Is that what happened? Did she accidentally put her sister's name on the ticket for the flights down to Costa Rica? I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. He is doing a good job, though. I'm not faulting him. I'm just faulting. It's just the facts of the case here.
Let's talk about some of the witnesses that you may hear about over the course of this trial. Detective Richard Spitler. Now, he's the detective who, prior to the investigation of this case, had never served as a lead detective in a murder investigation. Not one. But I'm sure he did very well on his exams. You're also going to hear from Detective Katie Conn. Now, she's the detective that will tell you she's never met a defendant she couldn't crack in an interrogation, even if they invoke their rights multiple times throughout the conversation. Ask for their lawyer multiple times throughout the conversation. Ask to leave multiple times throughout the conversation. Now, the state is going to attempt to tie Miss Armstrong to this shooting through purported forensic science. And you'll hear from a DNA analyst that examined some items that were collected in this case. And you will hear from a ballistic technician who will tell you he eyeballed some shell casings that were submitted in this case and determined that they were not inconsistent with a firearm that was taken from the home of Kate and Colin. But you will also hear from experts. And I want you to listen when those experts tell you DNA reporting can mean very little. And ballistic science isn't a science at all. And it's not highly regarded by members of the general scientific.
I'm going to object to that. There's no evidence that it's not highly regarded by the general science community just because you can find one or two people say that.
Judge, these are opening remarks. This is what we expect the evidence to show. This is proper. Thank you. Before that objection was overruled,
Man, he's got swagger.
about
I will say that.
And how that is far from the gold standard that you see it depicted as on TV. Now, the state's and the officers with the Austin Police Department and the scientists that they employ, they were so desperate to keep Kaitlin Armstrong in their crosshairs that they had tunnel vision and jumped to conclusions. And at the end of this evidence, you will be left with the conclusion that the state's purported forensic science is inaccurate, is unreliable, and unscientific. Now, words and phrases have the meaning that we give them. Words and phrases are meaningless unless jurors like you draw a hard line in the sand. Phrases like presumption of innocence,
Once again, he's making an argument.
proof beyond any reasonable doubt.
Look, once again, he's making an argument.
Judge, this is the burden of proof. If the state is apprehensive about the jury hearing about.
I'm apprehensive about him not getting a roadmap, getting an argument over the statement. That's what I'm apprehensive about.
Oh,
Said 4 words, I don't know where you're going.
okay. Here's another thing too. A lot of judges will have a rule that if you are making an objection and then you're arguing the objection, you go up you go up for a sidebar, right? You go up for a sidebar, you do it outside of the presence of the jury. But here, the defense attorney clearly is getting very annoyed with the prosecution's objections, which I would imagine at this point the jury probably is as well at this point. Prosecution's been losing some of these objections now. Early on, yes, okay, you made your point, first couple, but now he's starting to lose these objections, and the defense attorney, rightfully so, is indicating some annoyance with that. But what he also just said is he just flagged for the jury something that you never want the jury to be thinking if you're the one making the objection is, if he doesn't want the jury to hear these things, the blah, 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 I'm entitled to say them. If he wins on this objection, if the defense wins on this objection now, also, that's gonna add some fuel to his fire to say, because so far, let me kind of illustrate this for you guys a little bit. So far, we've got him. The defense attorney has basically hinted that maybe Colin is the one that killed Mo Wilson. Maybe it was him because the gun that had a match with the shell casings was, there was a gun that they owned from their apartment. Basically, the two of them, Colin and Kate, both had access to the gun. And then, he's referring to the lead investigators. His first time investigating, being the lead investigator for a murder case, had never done it before. So, potential incompetence. And then another detective who is essentially a dirty cop because she says that she's never met a perp that she couldn't crack, even if they have requested an attorney, essentially invoked their Miranda rights, and she's infringing on that by continuing the investigation. Not supposed to do that. I don't know if that happened in this case or if he just knows about other cases that investigator or detective has been a part of, where that's happened. This is a defense attorney here that seems like he has done many cases in Austin, Texas. And so I would not be surprised if all of these players in the room here know each other already, and they're familiar with each other's past, and they're familiar with the ways in which they operate. That could also include the investigators and the other police officers and things like that. Then he's talking about how DNA isn't reliable, and he's talking about how ballistics is not even a science. So now he has an opportunity to even paint the prosecution here as dirty, or as basically trying to improperly construct this case in a way that is not truthful and is not accurate and is not fair. So that's one of the dangers here of the prosecution continuing down this path right now, is he might be able to do that. This defense attorney might be able to. I don't know. Maybe the jury doesn't like him either. His personality so far could be taken as confident, or it could be taken as cocky, and that might be a turn on, might be a turn off. He's got great hair though, so who knows? Okay. let's continue here. I mean, this is already such a wild opening statement that I was not expecting.
So I'll allow you to finish your sentence to see if it is part of the statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate it. You must approach the task
So he won the
of
argument.
evaluation of the evidence with the willingness to think that which I know as a father, as a person, as a human, know to be the most difficult words to say. I don't know. I don't know. And I want you to approach that task.
Judge, once again, he's talking about how the jury weighs evidence. He's not talking about the foundation of the advantage what he expects to prove.
You gotta drop it, man.
This is appropriate argument. Your Honor,
This is opening statement.
I didn't hear the first
I just said this is opening statement. I haven't made a ruling, but I would ask again that you could find your remarks to the appropriate statements for this juncture of the trial.
Thank you, Your Honor. I don't know. At the end of the evidence, that is your conclusion. We don't know. The appropriate verdict is not guilty. As you approach that jury room, if that is your conclusion, we don't know, not for sure, then the appropriate verdict is not guilty. The state has a job to do. We have a job to do. And you stand between us. And we stand
Judge, that's not opening statement.
Objection sustained.
with Kaitlin Armstrong, a woman who is trapped in a nightmare of circumstantial evidence.
That's not opening statement.
Judge, I'm discussing the evidence. and that it
You're
is
discussing her
circumstantial.
state of mind. That's not evidence.
Okay. We have an awesome responsibility. Yours is more awesome. And at the end of the evidence, you will be left with the conclusion that the state has fallen short of the incredibly high burden that they have willingly accepted in choosing to accuse this woman of a very serious crime. You had your chance. You could have been excused on Monday, but
Judge,
you,
that's not opening statement.
Objection sustained.
Yeah, that's bad.
but you told us you could be fair.
That's the same line of question. It's not opening statement.
Are we concluding this case?
I'm trying to wrap it up, Your Honor.
And you're not doing opening statement.
Let's wrap it up appropriately as far as what the evidence from your portion of the trial or what you intend to show or think will be shown to the jury.
I'm trying to get there, Your Honor. Despite
Without
interruptions.
argument. Let's do it
Yes.
without argument.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Your Honor. At the end of this case, your responsibility is more awesome. And you will have the conclusion that the state has fallen short of its burden.
Judge, once again, every time you sustain, he gets up and says the same thing. He's making arguments about how they weigh the evidence at the time.
Judge,
That's not opening statement.
it is the burden of proof, Your Honor, that the jury has in this case. If the state's apprehensive about the burden of proof that they've accepted,
There's a time and place to talk about the burden of proof. It's not opening statement.
Let me stop. If there are no further statements about what the evidence is going to show, then we can move on to the next portion of the trial. So you've heard that statement that you've made a few times now, so I would ask you if there's nothing else about the evidence.
there is, Your Honor.
Okay.
We trusted you then. And we trust that at the conclusion of this trial, when you look at the evidence, you will come to a just verdict. And that just verdict, we trust, will be a verdict of not guilty.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury will take I'll say a 15-minute break before we start the testimony of the case. You're in recess for 15 minutes.
Oh boy. Fireworks. That's a packed courtroom too. I wonder. So the stream goes for a little bit. No, okay, so it's gonna end on us. So that's opening statements. Oh my God. Defense attorney here. He started to kind of get on a roll, and then he just crashed and burned because it seemed like he wasn't taking seriously what the judge was saying about, keeping it to statements that are going to give a roadmap for the case. I think he's struggling because, wow, this is like, what's happening? Is there scaffolding? Oh, okay, that's a boom mic. They're taking down the cameras and whatnot, I guess. So I am so sad. Yeah, Hezo, I also, I'm so sad that the whole trial isn't going to be recorded. This would have been fireworks. It would have been absolutely fireworks. And oh man, I really wish we could have watched the whole thing because I want to see what the defense does with the case. Like, I know what the prosecution's going to do with the case. Like, there are so many receipts here. They're burying her in receipts. The defense, look, from a strategy perspective, remember that the burden of proof is on the prosecution always. So the defense, technically, I mean, yes, you want to give an alternate theory of the case. You want to give an alternate, possibility of like the real whodunit, or something like that. To be like, this is not, you got the wrong woman. This is the wrong person. She didn't do it. She it couldn't possibly be her. The way that you do that is, at the very least, by muddying the waters enough so that there is reasonable doubt. It's not enough to have doubt. It has to be reasonable doubt. Based on those opening statements, the two of them in comparison to one another, it seemed like the defense was just really struggling. And I think it's because it's a really shitty case, facts-wise, for the defense. Yeah, little nerd one grasping at straws, basically. So, okay. Oh, Shireen, first witness called, Matthew Wilson, Mo's brother. That is, I'm sure that's going to be very emotional. I mean, it's or whatever. I'm sure it's already happening. So, okay. Now there are reporters in the courtroom that are live tweeting this. Alex Caprariello is one of them, and he's probably tweeting now. Let's see. Actually, let me share my screen for just a little bit. I'm not gonna go through all of this here, but thanks again to Shireen for pointing him out to me, that he is in the courtroom today. Okay, yeah. So 2 minutes ago, the state called his first witness. Okay, so we basically caught up now through their recess. So 8 witnesses. Okay, 8 witnesses are now simultaneously being sworn in, raising their right hands and swearing to tell the truth. They are being instructed that they cannot, from this point forward, discuss the case outside the courtroom. There are 4 uniformed police officers and 4 plainclothes men and women. The state called his first witness, Matthew Wilson, Anna Moriah Wilson's brother. He lives in Vermont, says most people from college onwards call her Mo. He has long, blonde, wavy hair. I saw him earlier sitting in the courtroom, but was not inside during opening statements. Okay. So, all right. So they're already on to their first witness here. First exhibit being shown is a picture of Mo Wilson and their family dog, Brooke, from 2015, picture taken in Vermont. Second exhibit is a picture of Mo with her bicycle, picture taken at the Mid-South race, which Matthew says she won. So clearly what the strategy here is get the emotional story out first. And that is a very sound strategy, is who was the victim? What was her life like? what was her future like, her potential future? Because people have talked a lot about this. Excuse me. In this case, people have talked a lot about how she had just gotten into like the professional level of bicycling, and that um, she had a very promising future in professional cycling, moving forward, both on gravel and like trail cycling, I think. Um, but anyway, so telling the whole emotional story, getting a feel for like who the victim was so that you can get the tragedy of their death. That is a very strong way to start a case in terms of evidence when you are the prosecution in a murder case. Okay. All right. So then looking at the poll, we've got I'm going to end this poll. I asked, are you interested in regular recaps? It disappeared. No. Is it going to show up again? Okay. Are you interested in regular recaps on this trial while cameras are not in the courtroom? 90% said yes. No said 9% said no. So I might be doing some regular recaps on this because I know. I'm a little invested too. Mountain Princess 207. So yeah, I'm a little invested also. Like I said, I wish there were cameras in the courtroom for the whole thing. But there's nothing that we can do. So, okay. Really good start by the prosecution, really rocky start by the defense, in my opinion. I don't necessarily think that it's, bad skills by the attorney. At least I don't like to lead with that. Over time, sure, things enough may come up that we start to see some fault with the attorney on the case, but I think he got flustered. I think that he also didn't have much to go on for an opening statement. But he's got a tough case. So, what expectation management is where we go with that. Okay. And also, oh yeah, Debbie Faison Cook, thank you so much. I don't know when it starts, but Judge is allowing cameras. That's the Idaho murders case. Yes, I think that the ruling was he's going to allow cameras in the courtroom, but it's going to be in a limited capacity. So we don't know how limited. Hopefully there will be cameras in the courtroom for like throughout the testimony, unlike this, because technically they allowed cameras in the courtroom for this, but only for opening and closing and verdict. So we shall see. We shall see. All right. I think that for me about does it. I think that's about it. Very fascinating start to this case. Excuse me. I'm going to be tracking it. And we'll see. I'm gonna try to make some regular recaps on updates on this case while it proceeds. And I think that's about it. So thank you so much, you guys, for joining me on this spicy road today. Did not realize that it would be as spicy as it ended up being. But yeah. That was quite a wild ride, I should say. Okay. So, look forward to some recaps, as well as we will be streaming the closing arguments as well. Because that's when we will have a chance to see some of the evidence that has come out. Hopefully, I mean, we could kind of see a small corner of the screen when they were showing the timeline and whatnot. So I don't know if they're going to allow us to see whatever evidence that they put up on the screen while they're talking. I don't know, but at least we'll be able to hear them referencing the evidence that came in. We'll see. Okay, guys. Thanks again for joining me. Thank you to everybody that was in the chat, engaging and whatnot. Thank you to my mods for helping to facilitate healthy discussion, agreement or disagreement. And thank you to everybody watching on replay and also commenting and liking the video. I really do appreciate all of that. And yeah, Hezo won. I do see, yep, Starbucks holiday drink starting tomorrow. Very excited. We are moving from pumpkin spice latte season to peppermint mocha season very, very soon. Okay. And with that, I think that about does it. Okay. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys in the next video.